All right. Happy Tuesday. Today's Tuesday training is all about gut health and how to protect your immune system. So, first and foremost, what is the gut? You hear this word, but what exactly is it and where is it located in your body? The gut is also referred to as the gastrointestinal tract, the digestive system, or your digestive tract, and really is a group of organs that includes your mouth, your esophagus, your stomach, your pancreas, your liver, your gallbladder, your small intestine, your colon, and your rectum. The gut serves so many essential roles in sustaining and protecting the overall health and wellness of our bodies. And starting with the intake and absorption of nutrients and water, it provides the building blocks that the body needs to live, to function, and to stay healthy. So our gastrointestinal tract really can help keep us healthy and happy. And when the gut health is compromised, we can face major health consequences. Here's a little bit about good nutrition to keep your digestive humming along. And I love first to start with the quote from Gerard E. Mullen. He said, "Heal the gut and you heal yourself." At least 70 million people in the United States suffer from some sort of digestive issue. It's becoming more and more common, more and more prevalent. And I'm not just talking about heartburn, I'm talking about digestive problems. And we'll get into greater detail later in this discussion. So for nearly 10% of all healthcare spending, that's a significant portion. Your GI tract, or your gut, works hard to allow nutrients and water to enter into the body while it prevents the entry of toxins and antigens and other chemicals that don't belong. The barrier it provides is selective, meaning that it helps protect you from the environment you live in, the air that you breathe, and the things that you put into your body, and what you put on your body, which is your largest organ, also known as your skin. So maybe you've heard the term gut microbiome. It refers specifically to the microorganisms living in your intestines, and each person has about 300 to 500 different species of bacteria in your digestive tract. While some microorganisms are harmful to our health, many are actually incredibly beneficial and can even be necessary or are necessary to a healthy body. But a distressed gut can't defend, and then our immune system is compromised. So instead, it allows those dangerous compounds to enter into the body. This is where really good nutrition and a healthy lifestyle can really come into play. And I'll give you those 7 steps at the end before we conclude this training. So many facets of modern life, such as high stress levels, too little sleep, eating highly processed foods, such as high sugary foods, taking antibiotics, can all damage your gut microbiome, all that bacteria. This in turn can affect other aspects of your health, such as your brain, your heart, your immune system, your skin, your weight, your hormone levels, your ability to absorb nutrients, and even the development of cancer. So what are some things that can go wrong? If your gut is distressed, it won't perform well and you won't feel good, right? You feel lousy, you feel low energy, you feel these low-grade chronic inflammation in your joints, and your immune system, again, is compromised. And especially at a time where we all need our immune systems to be the strongest they've ever been, right now that we're in 2021. A trip to your doctor might end with a diagnosis of irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, leaky gut, celiac disease, food sensitivities or intolerances, bacterial imbalances, skin irritation, autoimmune conditions, or no specific diagnosis at all. They might say, "Oh, you're fine, you're fine." That's at least what I was told for years as a kid. Since symptoms can often overlap and it can be tricky to really untangle the root causes of digestive disorders, it's really important to know a little bit more about your body, yourself, and how your body is responding to certain food intake. So what we know for sure is that the healthy gut barrier depends on several things. It depends on a balanced intestinal bacteria. So sometimes you might hear the word called dysbiosis, where you have more bad bacteria than good, but we want more good bacteria than bad. And there's about 3 to 4 pounds of bacteria in your gut. And I should say actually in your intestinal tract and the intestinal lining, so intestines, which is a part of your gut. The intestinal mucosa, which is the gut lining again, it replaces itself every 3 to 7 days. So if you've ever heard anyone say, "Oh, I started changing things and I felt better within the week," or "I started to do this detox and I felt better within the week," it's because you can actually change the lining of your intestinal tract in just a short week. So that's a lot of power. And think about it in the opposite state. If you're constantly eating things that are inflaming your gut, and you're constantly creating this underlying set of inflammation, it can cause irritation for long term and cause joint pain and other things that we're going to discuss today. A healthy immune system. So almost 70% of our immune system cells live in or around the gut. So if any of these are unstable, your gut will not be happy, and neither will you. Fun fact, you have more bacteria in your gut than the number of cells in your entire body. It's an important system. So bacteria can be classified as harmful or helpful. Bacteria, like the beneficial kind, are likely like busy tourists in our gut. They come and go. We don't have a permanent supply. So that means that in order to keep our vibrant gut economy, we need to continuously replenish them by the diet. So there are several factors that can alter our gut bacteria. It depends on age, how old you are, depends on your gender, depends on your diet, depends on your geography, depends on hygiene, stress, and medication use. And the birthing method, if you were born by C-section or born by vaginal delivery. The first food that you were fed, if it was breast milk versus formula, can also determine the bacteria that can colonize in your gut. With breast milk, it's one of the immunological assets because it generally increases the number of friendly bacteria. So if you were someone who was first fed by formula, it'd be something to pay closer attention to and make sure that you have you incorporate more probiotics and other things that we're going to talk about later that will ultimately help your body build up that beneficial bacteria. So beneficial gut bacteria can manufacture vitamins, meaning vitamin B12, vitamin K, vitamin B6, vitamin B5, vitamin B3, folate, and biotin. So they can enhance the absorption of minerals, they can fight off pathogens, they can digest food, and they can really help metabolize drugs. They can also influence your total metabolism. So a very important topic that often gets overlooked when trying to aim for like a quick fix or a solution to GI issues or infections is the use of antibiotics. And I've had so many clients get prescribed antibiotics and us trying to come back with the solution here and really helping to rebuild the gut, because the use of antibiotics not only eliminates the harmful bacteria, it also eliminates all the beneficial bacteria that you have in your gut that we talked about before. And it creates then, when all that goes away, it creates a prime environment for yeast infections, also known as Candida albicans. And that growth can create more inflammation and symptoms associated with IBS. And however, as contradictory as you think, oftentimes antibiotics are used to treat IBS symptoms, which again, like we said, can kind of wreak havoc on the whole system and create more inflammation in the long run. Sometimes it's necessary, but again, we need to really look at the big picture here. And if you're being overprescribed with antibiotics all the time, it can really have a detrimental impact. Reduced beneficial bacteria can also occur with low iron levels and or a low carbohydrate diet. So I know I talked a little bit before about like excessive carbohydrate diet and consumption of processed foods, and that can contribute to SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, which is the bad kind. So for folks who suffer from SIBO, a limited carbohydrate and a higher protein, higher fat diet can be useful. Also, eating enough fiber is crucial and plays a very important role in gut health. Fiber does not get digested, so it means it serves as kind of like a carrier in the body to help excrete toxins out of the body and improves regularity of bowel movements. It also makes its way into the large intestine and ferments, creating short-chain fatty acids, which is an important source of fuel for the body. Then the breakdown of fiber also helps regulate pH balance. And there's more and more research coming out about pH balance, but promoting the optimal environment for beneficial bacteria. When the gut wall is irritated or inflamed, the tight junctions, I like to refer to them kind of as like bumper cars. You want to keep those bumper cars together. But when the tight junctions between the cells loosen up, they start to separate and we get increased permeability, meaning the leaky gut syndrome, inflammation, stress, pharmaceutical use, bacterial balance, malnutrition, different compounds in food like gluten, casein, lectins, fructose, and food additives, including MSG, can all influence the junctions within our gut and weaken our bonds. A leaky gut isn't selective. And what I mean by that is it might pass up on digesting beneficial nutrients while becoming dangerous and adding or welcoming in dangerous bacteria inside. This is really called bacterial translocation, or BT. It can stimulate an immune response or inflammation, and it burdens the brain and the liver. A leaky gut often goes along with conditions like autism, type 1 diabetes, allergies, mental illnesses like depression, schizophrenia, skin inflammation such as acne or rosacea or eczema, diminished insulin signaling, and asthma. Although causal relationships aren't established, researchers can hypothesize that certain compounds like gluten or casein cross the leaky gut. So kind of what I was talking about before with the two cells that are tightly bound. If they're not tightly bound, it leaves space for things to cross through and can actually create a response and leading to a central nervous system dysfunction. What are some of the causes of leaky gut? So again, long-term use of pharmaceuticals like NSAIDs, birth control, corticosteroids, excessive sugar, refined carbohydrate consumption, consuming too much alcohol, like although red wine in moderation seems to actually help improve gut, but again, in moderation. Pathogenic bacteria like H. pylori, E. coli, which can contribute to gut health and disrupt and compromise your gut for up to 3 years. Yeast infections, stress, acute or chronic, parasites, environmental contaminants. So if you've ever heard the term follow your gut instinct, our gut communicates with all the cells in our body, which means that anything that disturbs the gut can show up as disturbances in the brain and vice versa. So it's kind of like our second brain. They talk to each other. As a matter of fact, the brain actually kicks off digestion before the gut. So we start to secrete acids and digestive enzymes before even swallowing our first bite. And this actually helps us digest and break down the food. But our other things that can affect the gut and brain connection is our emotions. Our emotions influence our gut health. The things you think on a daily basis. I talk about this all the time with my clients. What you think becomes your gut. What you think becomes the hormones, the way your body responds. And it's really important to learn how to pivot from those negative thoughts, those negative emotions, those negative, that the movie role that you're playing in your head, and really kind of switch gears into a more positive mindset. Also, when you're afraid, your brain and your gut know. So your digestion starts to slow down. If you've ever heard of or if you've experienced never being able to eat when you're feeling especially anxious, that's because blood flow and enzyme production in the gut are limited during times of stress. Another example to discuss is exercise. So when we're at rest, the gut receives over half of all organ blood flow, right? It's you're at rest, you're digesting, or you're relaxed. But during exercise, when you're moving your body and blood is going to your extremities, blood flow to the gut drops about 20%. So lack of blood flow to the gut during digestion can lead to increased intestinal permeability, which basically is why I encourage my clients leave space between the time that you eat and the time that you exercise, or making sure that if you are going to eat close to the time that you exercise, we talk about other options like smoothies and things that are easier to break down. Ironically, something to think about, both exercise or endurance exercisers, like those who run marathons or triathlon, or even if you just like to run for fun, and compared to people who have heart failure, are actually both those populations are susceptible to leaky gut syndrome. So if you are an athlete and you've had trouble with gut for years and years, it makes sense, again, because your body is trying to do two different things. It's trying to move and send blood elsewhere and removes blood from the gut. So it makes it hard to digest that food. It's also important to note that the symptoms of a disturbed gut can show up outside of the gut itself. And what I mean by this is could be unrelated symptoms that you might not think is related to the gut, like joint pain, fibromyalgia, sleep disturbances, rheumatoid arthritis, fever, restless leg syndrome, anemia, skin irritation, fatigue, night sweats, headaches, and so on. Serious gut pathogens often result in weight loss and nutrient deficiencies. So this is kind of where I was talking about how the gut isn't selective. When the gut is disrupted or it's in a state of compromise or being compromised, it can start to pass up on some of those really key nutrients. So it's really important to heal the gut in a slow and steady way so that your body can then accept those nutrients. Other things that can cause gut distress. So let's talk about some of the other foods before we talk about some of the solutions here. What also foods that are maybe helpful for you might not be helpful for other people. And what I mean by that is, for example, lectins. Lectins are a particular type of protein, and the most irritating type is found in seeds such as grains and beans and legumes and nuts. And sometimes people have difficulty digesting the lectins. When you soak your grains or soak your nuts, it actually can decrease the lectin content, the lectin exposure to the gut. So that may be your alternative solution there. Also cooking process helps to reduce the lectin content. And then gluten. Gluten is a big topic, especially as of recent, but really the protein within gluten and the protein in barley and rye and corn found in other grains can be irritating to some linings of some guts. And then casein, lactose, and other immunoglobulins, these are all in dairy. The casein is the protein, the lactose is the milk sugar, and immunoglobulins is a component of dairy. And they also can be irritating to some GI tracts. Also fructose. Fructose is also known as fruit sugar, so naturally occurring, but sometimes added to processed foods. People who struggle to digest fructose also often have trouble with other carbohydrates known as FODMAPs. And I talk about this with my clients, known as fermented oligosaccharide, disaccharide, and monosaccharide, and polyols. No, it's like fancy words there. But basically, they're just components of carbohydrates that are a little bit more difficult to digest. So that's why I said for some people, that those might be perfectly healthy foods, but for others, they're not. For some of these compounds can really induce like a mast cell, the mast cells to really produce histamine. So that's like mimicking a food allergy, also increases intestinal permeability and inflammation. And then for others, they can mimic symptoms like respiratory allergies, such as sneezing and sniffles and throat irritation. For others, these can stimulate an immune system T cell response and create or exacerbate autoimmune symptoms such as joint pain or skin rashes, especially eczema. Other people simply lack the appropriate digestive enzymes to produce one or more of these compounds. So sometimes with my clients, I talk about incorporating digestive enzymes until the body is naturally producing those enzymes again on its own. In this case, you might just get a general stomach ache, upset, or gas, or bloating, or nausea, or have constipation or diarrhea, but it's still not something to ignore. When your gut is compromised, when you're not having consistent bowel movements, I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation with clients, like, oh yeah, every other day, it's always been normal for me. That is not normal. That's something that needs to be observed and fixed. I know it's not everybody's favorite topic to talk about bowel movements, but it's something I talk about and research about a lot because it's an important piece of excretion and getting out toxins from your body. So there are some foods that contain these compounds that can have almost like addictive properties. It can create an immediate feeling of like well-being, like, ooh, that felt really good. I like and enjoy eating that. It feels good on my palate and then also makes me feel good. But then shortly after, you may, start to feel like you have that upset stomach. So that's usually a pretty good sign too, that the body is addicted. It's almost like a backwards thought process, but the body is addicted to almost the inflammation in that way because it's gotten used to that. So it's not a good sign. So what can you do, right? Here are 7 things that you can do to help improve your gut and your immune system. Number 1, talk about it all the time. Lower your stress levels. Stress is the big bad bear here. Lower stress levels, meditate, go for a walk, get a massage, spend social time with friends and family, diffuse essential oils, decrease caffeine intake. That can increase heart rate and make you feel a little bit more anxious and stressed. Laugh a lot, do yoga, love on a pet. These are all great ways to help lower your stress levels. Number 2, get enough sleep. This is another big one too, and something that I personally struggled with for a long time too. So trying to get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep at night is so important. So really, if you aren't meeting this target, we need to fix that. Eat slowly is number 3. I often talk about this with my clients and helping them understand how the speed of how we eat really impacts our digestion and the release of enzymes that go to our gut for breaking down the food. Number 4 is stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water. I could go on and talk about water for an entire half an hour and on the importance of water and how it helps our immune system. But really, to help lubricate your joints, to help your body, to help heal your gut, it's really important to maintain hydration. Number 5, this is a special topic and something I'm going to touch base on in more detail as we go on in this year, taking a probiotic. This is something, again, I talk in greater detail on a personalized note with my clients and really finding the right dose and the product or the right food consumption, because we can also have this naturally occurring in certain foods. It's so important for maintaining good bacteria within the gut. Number 6, be aware of any food intolerances or any sensitivities that you are experiencing. If you notice a rash, nausea, fatigue, or acid reflux, do not ignore these symptoms. They can mean something greater here and that your gut is in a compromised state. Number 7, change the way you eat. If you and I are not already working together one-on-one, I would love to learn more about your journey, what symptoms you're experiencing in order to help you find the solution. This is your Tuesday training for the day today, everybody. Have a great Tuesday. Make it a good one.